Hi, and welcome to the Philips CX50 training from Providian Medical. To get started, we're going to take a quick system overview. This is an important video to watch because it's going to cover all the buttons and it helps to understand how the system works and what you can do with it. To get started, first you want to connect the transducer. There's a lever here on the side. Make sure it's down before you connect the transducer. Then you're going to slide it in, push it in, make sure it's firm, and pull up on that lever to make sure it's locked, and you shouldn't be able to move it at all. And that means your probe is connected. To get started taking a look at the system, this is designed like most other ultrasound systems today, where you have the trackball in the center, your set keys and things to enter for moving a box, entering text, etc. And then most of your imaging modes or the things that you're going to be doing during an exam are designed around your hand. And things that you'll use less are going to be over here. Things that you'll be using more will be closer, assuming you're scanning with your right hand. Across the top, we have these things called soft keys or quick keys. Each one of these refers to a note up on the screen. For example, this says Sonote CT on. I could push this button down, turn it on or off. I can twist it to change resolution or speed. Same thing with X-res. Top row, you're going to push down to activate or deactivate. Bottom row, you're going to twist to adjust the value. Next row down, we have some important keys here. You first have your patient key for entering patient information. You have this probe key, and unlike other systems, that's not where you select the application. That's really only for those who have multiple transducers connected, and typically that's going to involve using the blind Doppler probe or a multi-connector that is an option on a cart. So this is where this little folder and piece of paper is where you'll actually select your imaging preset and letting it know what you're going to do. Turn that off, and we'll get to all of that, like how to select that preset and get into imaging in the subsequent video. Next over, you have a image review. It's these four little scan lines here, and you can hit it and review the images from that study. You also have a report key. This is where you end an exam. It's an arrow going into a folder, and it will end your exam and allow you to start a new one. Like that. We have your physio, which will turn on and off your ECG lines on the screen. We have a little person with a bunch of lines through it. This allows you to hide the patient information at the top. It will delete all that information up there if you want to hide that patient information screen. This is your protocol button, where it will allow you to go through a quick exam, and it'll step you through all the measurements for you. And we'll get to that in the system setup as to how that will go. And there's a button here to show all of them. And that's that smart exam feature. Here with this checkbox and the lines, you have your system setup key. And this is a pretty advanced system setup. It looks daunting right now, but we'll get to that in a later video and cover all of those options and also talk about DICOM setup. Just press that again and turn it off. This question mark is your help file. This help file is infinitely better than the user manual. The user manual I have covered some very basic stuff and didn't tell you much about the system, whereas this is a searchable. You can go through and click and search for a specific subject. You can look at the index looking for specific terms, and here are the contents with all the chapters, so you can jump right to that spot. Press the question mark again to get rid of it. You have your standard keyboard here. The only thing that's different is this world key. If you want to select a specific character that is noted on the keyboard, you're going to hit the world key, shift, and then also that letter. Coming down here, these three are mostly used for 3D if you're doing 3D TEE, and you won't use them much. You have your dual image here. You can select dual image, switch from right to left in a live image. Your pointer, if you want to come down and click on something when that becomes important. Coming up, you have your imaging modes: M mode, CW, PW, 2D, color, tissue Doppler, color power, angio. Now, some of these are amber colored, and that means that you can activate those options. So I hit PW and it turns green because that's now an active mode. press it again. And if anytime I'm in a mode and I want to go out, I can just press the 2D to go right back to 2D imaging. These are grayed out here, the CW and TDI, because I have a linear probe connected, and those are not active features on that linear probe. If I connect a sector cardiac probe, those will be amber, and I can jump into those modes. Around here, we have Caliper, Trace, Calc, Erase for erasing text. Your text, you can press down, get your key, you can quick select, press it to get rid of it. Body marker, eye scan for an auto optimization, and acquire, and this is for saving images and loops on the system. Obviously, I have your freeze key, push that down, my image is frozen. Your gain, now this gain also says active mode, so if you push down, it will change the gain on whatever you choose to be the active mode. For example, if I have color on, I can twist this to change the active color, but if I push it down, I will increase the grayscale or the gain on the 2D image. Push it down again, and I can turn that gain down on the color, and the same goes for pulse wave or any of the other options available. Compression, this is known also as dynamic range. Let me get out of color there. It's also known as dynamic range. You can make your image more high or low contrast here. Zoom, you can zoom in. You can also push it down to get the zoom box and zoom into the image. Depth and focus, this is also one that you push down to change between depth and focus. I can change my focus zone or push it down and change my depth. Of course, you have your TGCs here. Note that if you have a system and they're all the way to the right or all the way to the left, don't leave it that way. These are your lateral or time gain compensation controls, and this changes the gain throughout the image. So if you can see there, if I turn it down at the bottom, the gain is high at the top and low. High at the bottom and low at the top, and vice versa. I can do that. Typically, you don't need as much gain in the near field, so you'll see this is a little lower, and as your image gets deeper, you'll want to increase the gain to make sure that you can see tissue deeper. You also have your lateral gain controls, which is not something you find on most ultrasound systems, and this is a gain that goes from top to bottom instead of side to side. Now, there are also some controls that are not so obvious because they're not labeled. First of all, Control M changes the monitor brightness. Now, it is extremely subtle. You might have just seen it there, and you can flip through and you'll see it change brightness a little bit at a time. Frankly, I think it's easier just to go to this setup here and choose your monitor brightness there. You can also have it automatically control the brightness. That'll be covered later in the setups, but just know you can click on that, choose your monitor brightness, click apply, and then close. You also have Control B for the control panel brightness, and you'll see these keys here. They get brighter or darker. It's much more obvious when you select those here. Control J is your DICOM spooler, and we'll get to this into the DICOM setup. And of course, as mentioned before, this world key allows you to do special characters. So just select some text there. You can hit the world key, Shift, and D, and get your any of these, which will allow you to get your special characters. Next, we'll get into 2D imaging, saving images, and just getting started with your exams.